Hey, what's going on, guys? Another knife review for you today. Today we're looking at the Benchmade Model 67 Balisong. Very cool knife. You guys know I'm a huge Balisong fan. The 67 is the model with the recurved tanto blade. Very interesting. Just want to give you a quick little close-up. Beautiful craftsmanship on this Benchmade production Balisong. So, first I want to give you a nice look at this knife. Let's lock this open. Here's a full view of it. Get a close up of that blade. There's our recurved tanto. Very intimidating looking. I should have called this one the phlebotomist because it certainly drew some blood from me. There's a nasty, wicked point on this. And that secondary point on the tanto had nipped me at least twice that I remember. And it does not take much to draw blood from this. This is extremely sharp out of the box when it's brand new. Nice D2 steel. The Rockwell on this is 60 to 62, so very high, holds an excellent edge. I did not EDC this knife. I can't legally EDC Balisong, Pennsylvania, even though sometimes I do, admittingly, but not this one. Plus has no pocket clip either, so generally speaking, if I have a Balisong, I will not EDC it in a sheath. Although I have done that in the past, a horizontal sheath on the side with the gun and everything else that I carry. I don't do it these days. But if you do or can EDC a Balisong, a horizontal sheath on your offside, you know, in case of a righty, to have it on your left side and still have your gun on the right, that's really not a bad way to go. But I just can't do that here. As far as the cutting performance, I did test this a little bit on some cardboard and stuff like that. I have extensive use on D2 from Benchmade already. I know how it performs, so I didn't have to specifically use that. Just kind of looked at the blade design here. The recurve obviously gives you some curvature in the main portion of the blade, which is good for slicing. And particularly with the secondary point on a tanto shape like this, it acts kind of like a very slight hawkbill. Okay, so if you were to pretend this tip wasn't even here, all right, or if the tip was like this, it would work like a slight hawkbill blade. Of course, not as extreme in performance, but very good performing blade, to say the least. And for Balisong, most of you guys out there are going to get these to flip them. You're not going to get them to use it. But point being, if you were to use this knife, it would function very nicely for you. Price on these are about $300. Balisongs, particularly Benchmade Balisongs, they get very close to retail. Full MSRP on this is $350. Most places you go, you'll see like $297-ish prices. You know, you might get lucky to see $275 or something somewhere, but unless you're getting it from, you know, Blade Forums or Knife Forums or some online, you know, place where you can buy privately, expect to pay about $300 for it, brand new. So definitely not a cheap Balisong. For $300, is it worth it? Yes, I really do think it's worth it if you are very serious about your Balisongs. There are some drawbacks, and I say drawbacks because these are personal preferences. Don't forget, I've had a Benchmade 42 for a long time. I've had hundreds of different Balisongs that I've used and flipped, but the 42 has been my staple. It's obviously very well known in the Balisong community, and I really like it. But I haven't had a 42 in a long time. I've had probably more than a dozen in my lifetime, but the last one I had was about a year ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. And since then, I've been flipping the full-size Morpho, okay? And from flipping this, which is a very light Balisong, and going to something like this, which comes in at 6.39 ounces, it's like flipping a brick. So it's just preference. Personally, for me, it's a downside because I've become accustomed to flipping such a light Balisong. I like this Balisong because it's high quality, but it's light. Still offers the D2 steel on this one, obviously also from Benchmade. Of course, different blade design is going to perform a little bit different. This would be a more efficient cutter for most tasks than this simple spear point blade. But the point I'm trying to make is after flipping this for so long, the extra weight on this was significant for me. Now, I've mentioned this before, if you're starting to flip Balisong and you start off with something heavy, something light will be easier. But if you reverse it, if you start off with a light Balisong, which most of you do out there because you end up, you know, if you're not into the hobby yet, you know, or you don't have a lot of money to spend or just choose not to, you'll probably get a cheap CCC, you know, the crappy China cheapos or whatever, you know, way you want to say CCC. But basically, the Chinese versions, which are $10-15, you know, they're all going to be super lightweight. Generally speaking, of course, there are some heavier, cheap ones, but you get used to flipping something that's super light, and then you know you learn all your different moves. You go to something heavy, you're significantly slower. And so that's what happened to me in being so used to the light one. Flipping this, I was much slower. You can still be accurate, and a heavier Balisong definitely has its pros. And I've talked to this before when I'm reviewing heavier Balisongs like the Thug, the cheaper model Thug, as well as some other ones in the past. And with a heavier Balisong, you're going to get easier momentum. Okay, when you're flipping this thing, you have more momentum because you literally have more weight that's moving. All right, so your rollovers are going to be a lot easier to do, and they're going to be a lot smoother. All right, certain transitions are going to also be easier. Aerials on a heavier Balisong, I find, are easier unless you're doing multiple aerials. But a very simple 1 or 2 rotation aerial is much easier and much more smooth on a heavy Balisong like this. However, keep in mind, ricochets are going to hurt, and I've spoke to this before, and of course Balisong people understand the terms I'm saying. A ricochet for the most part just means you're bouncing one of the handles off of a finger, knuckle, whatever part of your hand, to stop the momentum in that direction and go a different direction. All right, so if I were to ricochet, flipping this around, bouncing off my finger, and then going the other direction. All right, obviously you have a big heavy stainless steel handle. These handles are full stainless steel. It hurts, and you will get red. Even with a very light Balisong, doing ricochets, whether it's with the back of the blade, okay, the spine of the blade, or you're doing the handle, after a while you get fatigued. Your hand gets red, you're literally smacking your skin and bone and meat. All right, but with a heavier one, it happens a lot faster, okay? If you get pinched with this, it will hurt more, okay? Specifically, obviously, in the pivot area, you could get pinched up between the tang, up here, especially since this has the Zen pins, which we'll talk about in a second, as well as the Morpho. But if you get pinched, more weight, more momentum, more pain. And specifically, when you cut yourself, okay, on a rollover, ricochet, so be it, when you have all this momentum coming around, if you happen to be in that danger zone on your bite handle here, all right, and you got that blade coming with that heavy handle behind it, let me tell you something, that bites a little bit harder and a little bit deeper, all right, and you definitely feel it. So heavier Balisongs will definitely be a little bit more painful. They'll bite harder, all right, so just be forewarned with that if you are flipping with a live blade or sharpened edge. Let's see, let's talk about the Zen pins real quick. Zen pins, if you're not familiar with them, basically you have 2 separate pins that are in the handle here, all right, and you have a little collar around, well, they're not pins in this case, they're screws, but you have a collar on the inside, and the tang is designed just like that, so that when the knife is opened, both pins rest on either side of your tang, okay? This gives you the perfect gap, the perfect space that you need for your latch to be able to securely close the knife, okay, so you can lock it open. This is, I think, in my opinion, definitely a superior design than having a tang pin. All right, cheaper Balisongs, or not even necessarily cheaper, but different versions or different models have a pin sticking through the tang of the blade to serve the same purpose. Okay, so instead of having tang cups, which are little cutouts here, and a pin, you have 2 pins, and the tang itself is shaped to go around them, so you have perfect tension. Okay, I find that when you usually, especially on cheaper models, when you have a tang pin as opposed to the Zen pins, that can get pinched and you lose this gap. You lose the space. Either it closes more, which is a problem because then you have a loose latch. And then when you close your knife and you actually lock it like this, the latch will unlock easily. It'll flop around, which you don't want. All right, so I do prefer Zen pins. I always see it as a bonus, but it really is a preference thing. On a quality Balisong, your tang pin will be properly heat treated and hardened, and it shouldn't pinch on you or have any issues like that. Speaking of latch, let's talk about that. Obviously, you see a traditional T-latch. Benchmade went back to the T-latch as opposed to their spring latch system. A lot of people like their spring latch. I honestly don't care. It's 6 to 1, half dozen the other for me. I like the spring latch. I like that it stays out of the way, but I still love the sound of a T-latch. A traditional T-latch is just an easier design, obviously. It's going to be a little bit easier to manufacture for them, so it keeps costs down a little bit. And for me, you get that clicking, okay, which I like. I like the clicking. It's music to my ears hearing a Balisong being manipulated. So this will be a downside to some people, but once again, a preference. So all the negative things on this knife for the entire review are preferences. I see nothing wrong with this knife except for the price. But the price really isn't wrong. It's just dictated by the manufacturing and, of course, the companies, what they want to charge. So it's expensive, yes. And some people will say it's not worth it. Well, that's personal preference. I think as far as knives go in general, the quality, the materials you're going to get, stuff like that, it is worth every penny of the $300 you're expected to pay for one of these. But anyway, you can see as far as the handle design here, we have open handles and a sandwich design. Okay, so we have our spacers, both sides. Something I want to notice or mention real quick, again, slight detail, but we have a rounded spine on this. I've always just preferred that. It's classy looking, it feels good. If you're going to actually use a knife and choke up on it, it just feels really good. Also, in the specific case of Balisongs, okay, a rounded spine will definitely hurt less when you're doing ricochets, okay? That is a tiny detail that in a folding knife may not make a big difference to you. As a Balisong flipper, and all the guys who actually flip on a regular basis out there will let you know that a rounded spine will save your fingers a little bit, okay? As opposed to a totally squared off spine, those corners, they start ripping your fingers up. I mean, you don't have to hit the blade to get hurt flipping a Balisong. You go nuts, you start flipping this thing for a couple hours, you're gonna get pretty raw, you know, and beat up and scraped and stuff, and that could be from the spine. But when it's rounded, it definitely helps. So as far as flippability of this, definitely awesome. All right, real quick, I want to show you a clip of me flipping. Now, what I'm going to be doing is doing one move with the Morpho first, and I want you to pay attention, not necessarily to the move itself, but pay attention to the sound. Okay, by the clicks and the sounds you're going to hear basically a beat, you know, whatever it happens to be. I want you to pay attention to the timing of that and what it sounds like. And then when I switch over and I flip with the 67, you will hear the same tones, the same beat, but it will be at a slower speed, okay, a slower pace. Okay, that's obviously, you know, definitive to the fact that this is moving slower. And that's the point for me to show you. And I'm using the same effort. Because they're heavier, it's just moving slower. So right now, check out that clip. All right, so you can see that it is a slower moving Balisong. Again, same effort, same exact move, just the execution is going to be a little bit slower because it's heavier. I can tell you it feels really smooth though. The pivots are extremely smooth on this. I would recommend when you do get any kind of Benchmade Balisong to take out the pivot screws and Loctite them. I don't know why, but they don't Loctite them anymore. The old 42s and stuff. I mean, back when they were spring latch, you know, 440C, they Loctite everything, but for some reason they don't do it anymore, and maybe it's just a step in the process they just don't do. Whatever the reason being, trust me, people get these brand new knives, they know they're expensive, they know they're good quality, but then all of a sudden their screws fall out and they go, what the heck, it's a piece of junk. It's not, it's just not Loctited, okay? Unlike a regular folding knife, you're rotating this 1,000 times more than a standard folder, all right, because of the fact that it is a Balisong and you are going to be flipping it, okay? So that rotation may back out your screw. It's very, very important. That's why I want to stress this, to remove these screws and Loctite them. Get yourself blue Loctite and go to any hardware store. This will ensure that the screws do not move, okay? So, anyway, as far as the specs on this, 4.25 inches on that D2 blade, which is very nicely done. Nice grinds on this. Again, recurved Tanto. That D2, again, hardened to 60 to 62 Rockwell. I know I said that already before, but I wanted to repeat that because, you know, you're going to get performance out of this knife. And the knife people watching this review will know what I'm talking about. As far as the closed length, 4.87 inches on this. And once again, full stainless steel handles. All right, it is heavier. You may wonder why they didn't use titanium. Although titanium is more expensive to buy as a material compared to stainless, stainless is more expensive to manufacture. Okay, so some people see Benchmade using stainless as being cheap, but it's not. I know for a fact that it is more costly for them to make a stainless steel handle because it wears down on their machinery. The bits, the cutting bits, it's more expensive in the long term to use stainless than titanium. So I just want to mention that. I know some people, I've seen comments before that, oh, they're getting cheap using stainless instead of tie. It's not because of cost. It's more expensive to manufacture a stainless steel knife like this, for them anyway. So Some people like it. They're just doing something different. I do prefer the lighter weight of, like, say, a 42, or even, even this version of knife in titanium. I would prefer it in titanium, but they just don't offer it right now. So maybe in the future we will see some a new 4X type line. Well, it wouldn't be 4 anymore. Maybe a 7X type line. We'll get the 77, or the 72 back in titanium. But companies, they like to try new things. Even though the 42 sells well, and I know if they came out with it again, I mean, literally spring latch, titanium handles, Weehawk blade, they wouldn't be able to keep them in stock. Why they don't do that, I don't know. I'm sure there's some kind of reasoning behind it, but maybe we'll see it again in the future. Until then, if you are looking for a slightly heavier Balisong of the utmost quality that will perform if you want to cut, this is the one to get. It's very cool looking, like I said. I mean, that recurved Tanto is a very cool looking blade. It's very intimidating. It does work fantastic if you were to actually cut with it. It's just beware. If you're just flipping, if you're a beginner, let me put it this way. If you're a beginner flipper, this is not the knife you want, because you will take a finger off with this thing. That extra weight and that extremely sharp blade is not a good combo for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So if you're a noob to flipping, please get this knife with caution, all right, and take it easy. So that's all. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you liked the video. Appreciate your time, as always, of course. And you can expect some more Balisong videos in the future. I'm trying to do a new tutorial video soon for you. I know people like those as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But till then, have a great day, and I will see you soon. Take care.